Hi everyone, this is Bobby from VN-Games.com, and I'm here doing something a little different than my usual. I'm here repairing, restringing part of my Ibanez 7420 MC guitar. If you're a subscriber of the channel, you probably have seen the original, and I'll put it up on screen if you want to see the night I bought this. But this video is going to be a dual-purpose thing. It's going to be both a update on this particular guitar from that video, as well as some maybe a guide on Craigslist, buying Craigslist guitars. I bought this guitar for $200 in its original condition, which would have seen in that other video, and since that time I've done some upgrades and bought some parts that it was missing, and it is a very nice guitar, but I seem to be having a problem with the guitar snapping strings more than I'm used to. So first things I'll go over, at the top I bought the nut cover pressure pads. This cost me more than I was expecting. Apparently this 2-jobber middle piece for this 7-string guitar is actually pretty hard to find, and it's not cheap. I'd say I spent about $70 on that. Things to think about when you're buying Craigslist guitars is definitely how complete they are. I thought the pressure pads would be a lot cheaper. I didn't actually do the proper research beforehand, and you'd probably say something like, well, you know, that's almost $300 down the drain. Why didn't I just buy a new guitar? And that's a good question. A very good question. The main reason would be that this is a Japanese-built Ibanez. And if you're an Ibanez fan, you know what that means. If you're not an Ibanez fan, or, you know, not really in the know, Japanese Ibanezes are the best Ibanezes. This particular model, the 7420 MC, was this particular guitar, let's start there. This one was built in Japan in the year 2000, and it does have some dings here and there, but it's a Japanese-built guitar from Japan, which really ups its value. They do still build this model today by the model number, but those are built either in Korea or Indonesia, depending on the production, I guess. But I love Japanese-built guitars, specifically Ibanezes. In fact, if you have one and you're in the, let's say, if you're in Southern California somewhere and you're looking to sell one and it's in decent condition, I might consider it. Other things I did is I replaced the pickups immediately. This originally had a V7 in the neck and V8 in the bridge. They're medium-low output pickups, and they're not terrible, but this guitar was really lacking something. My favorite pickup brand is DiMarzio. Almost all my guitars have DiMarzios, and this one is no different. I have a Tone Zone 7 in the neck. I'm sorry, in the bridge. And the Tone Zone is my favorite DiMarzio pickup. It's not too hot, not too light. And in this guitar, oh man, does it sing. And in the neck is something different, a pickup that I've never used before called an ionizer. I was expecting it to be a little too low output, but it has pleasantly surprised me. I originally was going to put Deactivator 7 in the neck, and there were some shipping problems, supply problems, but I think what I got was perfect. And I did get them in the cream color on purpose, this reverse cream, so you have the black in the middle and the cream on the outsides. I buy all my pickups from a eBay seller called Banjo Mike's. I'm going to put his link in the description. He's my favorite seller when it comes to any pickups. For almost all my guitars, almost all the pickups I've ever bought have been from him. If you have been following the channel, also I have a guitar called Skittles, which is my 80s throwback. It's kind of like a Paul Gilbert, Steve Vai, Jason Becker kind of thing that I'm going for. And all those pickups were bought from him. He has every color, I think, that they make standard for both Seymour Duncan and DiMarzio. So I'm going to start getting rid of this string, because for some reason this string broke on the original crappy ones the kit I bought this from had, and even these new ones. And right now I'm using Ernie Ball Slinky Cobalts. No particular reason other than the high, I think this is the B string, I don't even know. This is my first 7 string, by the way. I'm only still learning how to use it. But this particular set has the lowest gauge. I'm actually kind of disappointed you can't find 9s, but I guess maybe because the extra string and the tension required to stay in standard tuning, it's probably because of that, most likely. So yeah, I was playing this thing, and this thing has 5 springs in the back, and it basically snapped when I was doing that. So I'm going to make sure the bridge doesn't collapse, use this little rubber thing. This thing's great. And put the string into place. I'm only replacing the one string, not any more than that. Because these other strings are like brand new. I've only played a little bit. I'm also going to, after doing this restring here, play it live for you. I actually bought a new mixer, and I have some Shure M57 microphones I'm using. So we're going to see how this sounds. I will tell you that this guitar is probably the darkest sounding guitar I've ever owned. Which is not a bad thing. It was pleasant, from that perspective. Alright, so I need to replace 56, 36. I need to buy some more strings on top of that, but 36 seems to be, at least thickness-wise, these are 10s, but 36 seems to be the one that I've had snapped twice, so I'm going to lay low on the trem. I was actually being a little too rough with it, I think, and that's probably what caused it. Put that over there. So yeah, so other problems that this guitar had, the 5-way switch was, the problem is they had a 5-way switch and there's only 2 pickups. I don't know how they had the thing wired, like I don't understand how they had it, because when you'd have it in, like, some of these positions, you'd hear nothing, and then sometimes you get, like, half volume, and it was weird. I replaced this with a DiMarzio 3-way switch, so bridge, split middle, neck, depending on what I select. I also replaced the volume pot, which was messed up big time. This one's still having some grounding issues I need to fix, but we're not going to do that today. But that's a 500K pot, because these are, I think the tone zone is 385, and the ionizer is like 285, and it was like a 250 pot. And then the tone knob cut off completely. Interesting story about tone pots. The reason why I cut them off is kind of inspiration. Billy Sheehan, who is a very famous bass player. If you listen to the music I do, you know who he is. If not, he did a DiMarzio ad, I think like in the early 90s, when Mr. Big was really big. And he mentioned that he cuts the tone pot to increase the output, which I think I found is very useful. I also don't use a tone pot for pretty much anything. I just never really saw a need for it. I don't like the sound of it when you change it and it's darker. So the only problem with this is sometimes I gotta adjust. I should have done this before. Make sure I get that down a little bit. Yeah, so that was the inspiration behind that. Okay. This is never easy. Just need to open it up a little bit. If you've never restrung a Floyd, this is probably why most people don't like Floyds or Floyd Rose type guitars. I admit it can be a pain to restring, but I also find that they stay in tune better when they're properly configured. That's another thing. I had this thing professionally set up, but I still think there's too much tension pulling on the back on this particular guitar, which is what snapped the string, because, I mean, I'm not real hard on the trem. I don't do too many dive bombs. I'm not sitting on it like Steve Vai or something like that. But I do think it is still, there's too much tension with the five springs in the back. But I don't really want to remove it and mess up the entire setup. I just want it to be able to play it. So I'll just, for now, be careful. I need to loosen up some more. So more about Craigslist buying. So, if you're a new player, it's a really good idea to think about Craigslist, because Craigslist will, you can get some really awesome deals on guitars for real cheap. Crackheads selling their shit for cheap, or some kid doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, it sounds like a ripoff, but hey, if they're selling it, they're selling it. Tax season's a big time. In fact, I sold one of my Ibanez's kind of because of that myself. I sold it for pretty cheap. Not exactly highway robbery, but I had put a lot of work and pickups in it, and it just, I didn't like it. It was, and that's not like, dislike is a strong word. Me and it didn't. I just, playing wise, it didn't feel right. You know, I don't know if you ever felt that about a guitar. Probably have. That's why people pick their brands. But this would be the second Japanese built guitar I own. I have a Ibanez. So I have a 2005 Ibanez RG 1570. I think it's a 1570. Built in Japan as well. That one is my favorite guitar. That also has a tone zone in the bridge and an Evo pickup I pulled off of a Gem Junior I bought some time ago in the neck. And the middle is the S1, Ibanez S1 pickup, which I actually really like. And I got that for $300, a Prestige. Pretty good condition. Kind of, well, I would say it and this one are about the same as far as like chips and paint, possible damage. I mean, if you're a real stickler for what a guitar looks like, buying used might actually be a problem. I've never really seen used guitars in great shape. I mean, this one does have some decent chunks in the body, but it doesn't affect the playability, and it has most of its paint. The neck is very straight. In fact, I think we had to loosen the truss rod on this particular one. That is one thing I would recommend if you do buy a used guitar. Make sure to take it to a professional to get set up. That's the best thing to do. So, when you meet the person, wherever it is, in my case, I usually go to like a 7-Eleven or something. It's easy to tell looking at the guitar, is it in decent shape? Is the neck not bowed? Those are things to look for. I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? No, I'm going the right way. Alright, I am going the wrong way. I haven't done this in a while. So those are things to look for. Is the bridge collapse? So if you have a Floyd, if you're buying a Floyd like this one, is the knife edge even? Those are things you can spot by the eye. The other thing about Craigslist, just something you got to worry about, is dealing with Chinese copies. There are a ton of Chinese copies out there. And a lot of them look really good, and if you don't know what you're getting or what you're looking for, you might buy a fake, and people look down upon that. But Craigslist, even with those caveats of possibly getting ripped off, if you're careful, you can still get a good deal. You get a decent guitar. I mean, this guitar, when it was brand new, I think was like $1,300 in 2000 or something close to that. It was definitely not a cheap guitar. Certainly my Prestige was not, and I got it for $300, and all I needed to do was do a setup, which I was able to do myself. It was pretty straight. This one I took to get professionally done because, like I said, it's my first 7-string I've ever owned, and I wanted to be thorough about the process as possible, and it's from pickups. I did a lot of research and stuff, and there's some more popular ones. A lot of the John Petrucci pickups, like the Crunch Lab, for example, very popular. But I want the tone zone because it's my favorite on the other guitar, and even though it's technically the same pickup, this guitar and the other one, man, night and day difference tone wise. I don't even know how to begin to explain how much different they sound. And hopefully you'll hear how dark this one is in the audio. With this new mixer, I'm gonna try to see if I can get a decent capture. I'm gonna be using my Black Star HT Club 40 amp, which is I bought this year, also used off of Craigslist for about $150 off the brand new price. The guy I bought it off of, he seemed to have a lot of money and thought, oh, well, I'll buy this thing to play on it, to learn to play, and he didn't know how to play. So he wanted to get rid of it. Decided to keep his 15-watt Spider combo instead. I'm not kidding about that, by the way. Yeah, so... Oh, I gotta put this on their string tree. So, those are things to watch out for. So, all in all, pickups, switch, setup, you know, you could say, well, you know, based on all that, you know, you could have bought a new guitar. But yeah, you're absolutely right. But these older Ibanezes, especially Japanese build Ibanezes, they feel and play, in my opinion, like nothing other. Call me a fanboy if you want. But I really, really, really enjoy the way they feel and play. And the neck on this one, I have small hands. For a 7-string, this neck doesn't feel like a baseball bat. My brother has another 7-string, and I was like, no need. So the idea is I want to have the tension up a little bit so I can tune it properly when I drop it. And it also keeps the knife edge. This should be even. And so far, looking good. Just don't want it to snap on me. All right, so I'm gonna tune this thing, and then we're gonna cut to playing right now.